I've been impressed by few people more in the last year than Esther Jai, the mother of Brianna Jai, the teenager murdered by two 15-year-olds who'd been watching violent content online. I haven't met Esther yet, and obviously a crucial part of her campaign is derived from the fact that her daughter's murderers had watched violent content online. But I think if I'm reading it and remembering correctly, I think also some of Brianna's experiences online, her negative experiences online, contribute to Esther's mission, contribute to her campaign for under 16s to be banned from accessing social media entirely. And I was pretty clear, and it was a tough one. I don't think we went in perhaps quite as hard as we would have done if the background to the story hadn't been so emotionally traumatic. It's such a horrible story, the story of Brianna. But I was pretty sceptical about the likelihood of Esther's campaign succeeding. In fact, I would say I was about as close to 100% sceptical that it's possible to be without quite being 100%. So that would be 99.9% recurring, wouldn't it? Because it seemed to me to be the classic case. The classic case, and I've got a weird affection for the moments, the tiny moments, the precious few, the vanishingly few moments when a metaphor is completely perfect. And this is a case of trying to get the genie back in the bottle. And for anybody unfamiliar with that metaphor, or indeed the mythology of genies, it's a metaphor for impossible. It's almost impossible. You can't get the genie back unless you waste one of your three wishes on getting the genie back in the bottle. And why would you do that anyway? But you hear the figure of speech, you hear the metaphor quite a lot, and there it is. You cannot get the genie back in the bottle. And that is what I believed. And I think I still do. But my goodness me, it's nowhere near 99.99999% recurring anymore. Let's not forget that this is not a perfect. This is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good situation. This is a pretty clear example of an issue where you are never going to have a 100% success rate. But you don't, guess what? Come here. You don't have a 100% success rate on anything in this field. You know that it's illegal for people under 18 to buy alcohol? Guess what? Some of them do. It's illegal for children to smoke. But guess what? They still do. It's illegal for children to buy cigarettes. But guess what? They still do. So you're never going to have. It's illegal to. What else is it illegal to do? Travel in a car without a safety belt. But guess what? They still do. Never have. I don't know why we sometimes come at these issues as if 100% success is achievable or plausible, or crucially, a gauge of whether the legislation has worked or not. So bear that in mind when I tell you that the government, or at least the current technology secretary, is looking at banning children under 16 from buying mobile phones. And there are two responses to this for me. The first is, oh, what an interesting development in a fascinating conversation about getting a genie back into that. And the second is, am I missing something here, or has she completely taken leave of her senses? Because how many, put your hand up now, if you bought your own mobile phone when you were under 16? So what's she talking about is question number one. What is she actually talking? A genuine question. What is she actually talking about? Would this make the blindest bit of difference to anything at all? Well, yes, it would. It would deal with the vanishingly small number of children under 16 who bought their own phone in person with their own money. Second question then. What would work? What percentage of children do you think have a phone by the age of 12? And remember, these days it would almost certainly be a smartphone. Have a guess. Go on, what percentage of children have a phone by the age of 12? 12 years old, got a smartphone. Go on. Nope, higher. Guess again, higher. 97. 97% have a phone by the age of... This is an Ofcom poll last year. And by the time you get to 17... it's 99%. So outlawing phone sales, I read today, to under 16s is one option being considered under a consultation on protecting children online. And I would say that even without having seen what the other options are, it's almost certainly the stupidest. Any new law would only ban the sales of mobile phones directly to children and would not stop parents from buying their children phones. As I say, occasionally I read something and I think it must be me that's missing something, because surely you could not have risen to the dizzy heights of government, of Secretary of State no less, for technology, and somehow arrived at the conclusion that this is a good idea. So perhaps I am missing something. Which leads us to the two questions that perhaps you might be able to answer. And the first is, do you think we can get the genie back in the bottle? Because what Esther Jai is campaigning for is actually the banning of under-16s from accessing social media. So the first people that can contribute to this programme are people who understand the world of tech pretty well. People who ideally have worked for, perhaps, Facebook or WhatsApp or TikTok, less likely in the final case, because I think it's owned by the Chinese government. But they must have an office here. They must have employees here. So you've worked for these companies. How feasible is it? Is it something that actually we think would be really, really difficult? But bearing in mind that we're not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, so there is no earthly way that you're going to have a 100% success rate. You introduce a law, you introduce a policy, and if any 15-year-old anywhere is found with access to social media, the policy has failed. That's a stupid way of approaching this. Just looking to improve the current scenario. So, is it feasible? Is it possible to get the genie back in the bottle? How would you do it? What might work? So I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that the latest idea from the Technology Secretary is absolutely hat stand. Banning children from doing something they don't currently do. Unless I'm wrong, and I don't think I am. No one, I'm just glancing at my inbox, nobody is telling me that, no, actually I bought my own phone when I was 12 years old. I had nothing to do with my parents. They were cut out. In fact, they didn't even want, I just don't think it happens. So what would work? If you want to get, there's two things going on here. One's about phones and one's about social media. You marry the two together and the answer perhaps becomes only letting under 16s use phones that aren't smart, only phones that don't access social media. Do you think it's even possible to stop children having phones? And then from a position of experience, understanding and knowledge, how hard would it be to stop children accessing social media? Talking about smartphones and under 16s accessing, specifically under 16s accessing social media. Philly Boots, John's in Croydon. John, what do you want to say?
Morning, James.
Hello, John.
James, when I was about 17 or so, I tried to sign up to some betting apps, and there were some lads in the sixth form who were gambling, and I thought I wanted to join in. To try and do that, you needed to link your phone with your bank account. You needed to have a picture next to some sort of photo ID, like a passport or something, not like your library card or something like that. Something worth doing.
Yes.
And it was incredibly hard to the point that I couldn't do it. And then if you had to then re-log in to use some sort of similar verification system that is already employed by betting companies, so it's not like we're just coming up with it out of nowhere, and just apply it to Facebook. I mean, they've got, when they want to, they're incredibly clever. And I don't know if you know, but on the government website recently had to do a DBS check. If you remove the case of your phone and hold it up to your passport, it will scan it and take the picture and every other bit of information necessary straight to your iPhone. So with this sort of technology that the government and people already have in place, I mean, if you can't...
You'd think it would be easy. I mean, to be honest, we're coming at this from similar angles. You are a former 17-year-old who struggled to get onto a gambling website, so neither of us are what you might call tech broskies or Silicon Valley experts, but I'm persuaded by what you're reminding me of, and I'm pretty sure there are other areas. It's incredibly easy to access pornography online.
I wouldn't know, James.
No, nor would I. This is what I've read, and I'm pretty sure it used to be more difficult. I could be wrong, but you can put an age limit on a gambling website, therefore you can put an age limit on a pornography website, and therefore you can put an age limit on a social media website. To prove your age online is probably not as difficult as some people like us to think.
I also think, so when I was 13, tried to sign up to social media. That was about when it was first coming out. and I think you couldn't be on there till you say like 15 or 16. So you fail at 19. My birthday's 98, so if I put in 98, fail.
So you just change it.
7, 6, 5. Oh, brilliant!
Yeah.
I'm now allowed on, and it's got to be something a bit better than that, I'd say.
Yeah, me too. I like your contribution as well for two reasons. It's quite straightforward, and it's just thinking based on experience. But I'm interested in thinking that's not even based on experience. I think this genie can be got back in the bottle. I don't owe Esther Jai an apology because I certainly wasn't rude about her, but I am feeling my oil tanker. I'm feeling my oil tanker turn. Which sit there. Sometimes you think because something exists and it's become so embedded and it's so commonplace, you think, no, we can't possibly do things differently. Paul's in Stratford upon Avon. What made you pick up the phone?
Yeah, I mean, my background's web development, and we've had quite a lot of experience with social platforms, and I think that the topic of underage, anyone under 16, getting access to these social features has always been a bit of a concern for us, right, especially through TikTok. I mean, I should probably highlight some of the things that the previous caller was saying, which is exactly what we think. The quick fix is really an ID process before sign up.
How long would it take you to code that?
Well, Facebook could implement that.
Yeah,
they probably already had that type of system within their ecosystem.
And what would I need to prove that? Because some people would get through it, but the efficacy of the idea would be judged by how many people didn't. What would I need, for example, to get in?
Well, what's the first thing that you get? Identification you get at 16 is probably a bank account.
National insurance number.
Yeah, exactly. National insurance number, bank account, first bank account.
Colin's in Wandsworth. Colin, what made you pick up the phone?
Hi, James. Right, until my son was 13, I had Google had a parental control program on his phone, and I had full control over his phone, so he couldn't install any apps I didn't want, couldn't visit any websites I didn't want, and anything he tried, I got a notification asking me to approve it.
Okay.
The day he was 13, he got an email from Google saying, you can now take over your account, your parent will no longer have access.
Shut the front door.
They should change that to 16.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Even now, I mean, I can still lock his phone down, but obviously I've been in IT for 30 years, I've got a lot of experience.
So you know what you're doing?
Yeah, but for an average person, and I'm sure Apple do the same thing with parental controls, it was absolutely brilliant. I had full control over everything he did, what times he could use it, how many hours a day he could use it, everything.
Well, isn't that interesting? I didn't. I mean, I have to take your word for it on the Google thing. Are you nodding in agreement with what Colin's describing, or in agreement with me having to take his word? No. So it does. That's on your 13th birthday. You get him. So what was he logged on to? What was he?
You basically set up a child account when you set their phone up. So you have to set it up as the parent, and then you've got control over it.
And they have arbitrarily decided that 13 is the cut-off point, have they? Or is it legal?
Yes. Yeah, I contacted them and they said, 13 is their cut-off point.
Well, working in the sector then, how hard would it be to stop the massive majority of 16-year-olds getting onto social media full stop?
Easy. There's only two real phone companies, Apple and Google. They make 99% of the phones in the world, the software, so they control
the operating systems, to use the correct terminology, please, Colin.
Yeah, I didn't want to overcomplicate it.
Well, it's all right, mate. I'm not as daft as I sound.
But yeah, they control everything you can do on a phone. So really, Apple and Google could control everything. Everything. So
you get Apple and Google into Downing Street. You sit them down and you tell them you do this. Otherwise, for every day it's not done, we'll fine you £5 million.
Yeah, I'd only stop it on phones, obviously, not computers. But
why?
Yeah,
just remind me why.
Because on a computer, then you've got to set up different access controls on a computer for your children as well, which you could also do as well. But
there's something about the phone that's particularly invidious, isn't there? Having it in your pocket. What were you worried about, or was it just a general concern? Did you have specific worries about your boy? And
no, nothing. Well, I mean, I still monitor what he does, so yeah. I don't have a problem with it. But
every single thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he's of an age.
I told him I'd do it. He ain't got a problem with it. He's 14 at the moment.
Can't he go on incognito?
Unless he's listening to this, he probably doesn't know it exists.
Oh, shut up, Colin.
Seriously?
How old is he now?
It doesn't matter. Incognito is not incognito anyway. It's just what they tell you.
No, it's more incognito than not cognito. It's more incognito than cognito, Col.
To most parents, it would be yes. You can still find out what they visited, and I'd still get a log of it because of what I've set up on it anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
What?
I'd get a log of every website that he visits.
Because you've put different software onto his phone?
Yeah.
Okay. And everyone could do that. I didn't know that. I've checked, actually. Eleanor checked. I didn't doubt you for a minute, but yeah, Google's I mean, crikey. 13-year-old gets a little message at 13th birthday saying, right, tell your dad to sling his hook. I'm in charge. I'm the daddy now. He says that's a little Ray Winston reference. Colin, thank you. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. It's the more you talk about it. Do you see what I mean now? Because I bet if you haven't heard us have one of these conversations before, look, Michelle Donnellan appears to be a bit daft, thinking that you can just ban children from buying phones. Like that's going to make the blindest bit of difference because children don't currently buy their own phones. But if you thought, as I did when Brianna Jai started calling for a ban on social media access for under 16s, you thought, and I don't mean that, maybe it is a bit patronising, but you thought from a place of pity, concern and compassion, you thought, oh, bless you, but you're on a hiding to nothing. I don't think she is. And I mean, Colin's just crystallised it still further. You only need to get two people in the room, Mr. Apple and Mr. Google, and tell them that if they don't do this now, and we won't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, there'll be flaws in it, and there'll be parents that sign their children up for it, just as there are parents that used to show their kids porn. Let them have a borrow of their copy of Mayfair, or whatever it was. There'll always be parents that go against the general consensus, but you tell Mr. Google and Mr. Apple that if they don't do this, then you'll hit them where it hurts. And it only hurts in one place for those people. It only hurts in one place, and that's the wallet.